It is Tuesday, the week of our new Legend and Flashback collection. But as we do on every Tuesday, we gotta talk about tier listing cards in Diamond Dynasty. Last week, we talked about our All-Star Game cards and gave my initial thoughts on them. Now that it's been a week and I've been able to try and test a lot of the cards, we're gonna tier list the main diamonds in Diamond Dynasty, not every diamond anymore. So let's go through the tier list, go through my changes on the tier list this time around, and go through all the cards you should be rocking on your God Squads. So these are my tier lists. As you see, these tier lists all have the top whatever players at each position. I try to be more selective, really got to the point at each position and be like, okay, which cards are usable and not usable at all at this point in the game? And if there are some beginner game cards that are better, which ones are just a select few that are worth talking about. Right now, I am ranking cards for Hall of Fame, pushes to ranked season World Series, being prepared to play on Legend, playing on Hall of Fame all the time, or at least if you're playing on All-Star, you're trying to take your team to the next level to be prepared to play Hall of Fame. That is how I review cards. Listen, you can be good with anyone on All-Star. You shouldn't be looking and taking these tier lists too seriously at that point. People who want to see these tier lists, I want to try to give you the best options for a World Series push, where you can be really critical with your players. So our lower tiers like D, C, and B are no more than cards you should avoid or just beginner game cards. Like don't touch Johnny Bench, doesn't bring enough hitting to the table. Your B tier guys are very viable beginner game catchers if you don't have options, or you can honestly use them if you have high parallels and really enjoy them. Your A tier catchers are my recommendations for like the solid options. Like if you are starting off the game, they are probably the go-to, not too expensive to buy options there. Very, you know, a lot more well-rounded than our other catchers in the B tier. They bring a bit more hitting to the table that keeps up with cards nowadays. And our S and S plus tier are the cream of the crop. S plus is just who I would be using. Doesn't really change between S and S plus. They're all the ones I would be eyeing for a catcher right now. Wilson Contreras and Kirk are there because they're all-star game cards, easy to acquire, but also, you know, Contreras actually is very solid hitting. Same with Kirk, actually. They just have slight trade-offs, but I think the trade-offs get made up for having some live series quirks. But I think the big ones you should be rocking are Napoli and Joe Mauer at catcher. I think they are the most successful for a Hall of Fame push. Something like Mike Piazza could be good if you're good with him as well. First base is a little bit more of a deep position. And in first base, we have a new card I dropped today, 98 Cody Ballinger. And you might think I have a little bit of a hot take of putting him in the A tier. I'm going to explain why I have him there. This is the new Bellinger card that dropped. 90 and 93 contact is definitely good on Hall of Fame. Like, it's fine. But where this card becomes more valuable is the outfielder. He has gold fielding and 86 speed, so he'll actually be a good fielder out there. Being 100% real on Bellinger, his hitting attributes are pretty similar to a lot of our home run derby cards, mainly Pujols and Pete Alonso. It's just that Bellinger has a little bit more speed and fielding. But first base is not a position where that really gets value. If you hit very well with him, especially if you're playing on All-Star and maybe the beginning of Hall of Fame, this card could definitely play to an S tier hitter, but he's going to get more value being in the outfield. First base, I'm not emphasizing defense and speed as much as some of our other players. So he actually slots right into the A tier, right next to our home run derby guys like Alonso and Pujols, who are definitely really solid options at first. It's just with how I view first base, this hitter should honestly be one of, if not your best hitters in your lineup, and Frank Thomas and Babe Ruth, and even Delgado, who bring more contact to the table. This is a position where you got to really focus on the bat, so I would be leaning towards one of them. I have Jackie Robinson in the S tier as well, in case you want to slide him in there. At least he's got great contact to be very effective on the Hall of Fame push. Thing is, our A tier cards honestly might be your first baseman. That's perfectly okay. It's just the S tier I think is so much valuable to have, especially guys like Ruth, Frank, and Ortiz, because with how this game is, having that top tier hitter at first is going to bring you more value than some of these guys like Alonso and Pujols, who are slightly lower in contact, Goldschmidt is slightly lower in power, Swisher, who doesn't bring enough to the table. Like, these cards are good, but they're slightly downgraded hitters in some sort to our other guys up here. So I would recommend the S and S plus here the most. Now we slide over to second, and second is a very slim position. D tier, you know, there are a couple guys that are very, very weak hitting wise in the D and C tier. Your B tier are, you know, okay beginner game cards, but look for the A tier for your starter second baseman. And in our S and S plus tier, very stacked when you look at all of your options. You know, guys like Jimenez and Tim Anderson, if you're great with them, are going to be very viable because they at least have speed, defense, and solid contact. Seager and J-Ram are actually very good because they play high power at a power premium position. So if you like one of those two cards, you could play him at second and really have a great option there. But obviously, Jackie Robinson's a guy. Elite card at this point in the game. I'm looking forward to adding him to the team here very, very soon, hopefully. Either look for someone who's a little bit well-rounded in the hitting and fielding like Baez and Utley and Soriano, or you can get a switch hitter there like J-Ram, Escobar, Cattell, or Jorge Polanco. Or you could play the more defensive heavy route, get a speedy contact guy there like Jimenez, Tim Anderson, or Jorge Polanco. You know, if you like those type of cards, it's a good position to get them in the lineup. Shortstop is pretty similar in the fact that there really aren't like any incredible shortstop options right now. It's a great time to get a switch hitter in if you like J-Ram, Cattell, Escobar. If you're looking for a simple option to try, I would recommend either Dansby Swanson or Xander Bogaerts. They bring very well-rounded hitting, speed, and defense, and they're very viable, well-rounded cards. However, again, like second base, if you do very good with the Cattell or Escobar, definitely keep them there. And if you want to play the power premium and get J-Ram or Seager there, you could definitely use them at short as well. It's not the biggest deal to put that bad defense if the power really plays for you. So really, shortstop and second base comes down to feel and which type of these options you like most, other than Jackie Robinson existing. There's no card that's really ahead of the rest that's really the best without a doubt. Third base is a little different. Yeah, obviously you have George Brett. George Brett is the guy to use at third. I know his defense is, you know, a lie. He gets really bad fielding animations. It's very weird. But with how good his bat is, especially on a World Series push, this is a middle part of the order hitter for you. The collection is still worth it, especially with an upcoming collection coming soon. I would scoop up George Brett if you haven't. If you don't like Brett, Devers is great still. Manny Machado solid. Brett Beatty's nice. You have other options, but I really think this position isn't as deep with elite hitting as it normally would be. We'll see some change, I think, soon. I think like Machado's card was slightly underwhelming hitting wise. So if you like Devers, don't be afraid to keep him out there. And definitely don't be afraid to use J-Ram or Seager there, because again, you're getting a power premium at a position without cards with that much power. So don't be afraid to try those cards at third base. I think there'll be some of your better options there. Outfield is very stacked, so we'll go through the bottom half of the tier list quickly. Luis Arraez, just being real, I don't think you should use him much in the infield anyway, but that's a place to use him. In the outfield, he doesn't bring any sort of defense, and he doesn't provide any hitting. So if it were me, Arraez is probably a no-touchy. C tier, good bench bats if you're just getting going, looking for good hitters on the bench. Your B tier, a little bit more viable cards to start, but probably no past the all-star or beginning part of the game because they slightly lack power, contact, or fielding. Your A tier, again, probably more all-star centered cards, or if you have high parallels on them and you really like them, you could definitely use them and they're very viable uses. Just that the S tier of outfield is so elite with cards with good hitting or really good fielding. These cards slightly lack in something, and it's basically a card that does a job better than them in the S tiers. So in our S tier, you see a wide range of people. You have your really good hitters and not so great defenders. You have our solid hitters, solid defenders with solid speed. A lot of options. It really comes down to what you like the most. Find a player whose swing you like. Maybe you like the defense, maybe you don't. Me personally, I use Stanton in left. I have loved this card, and his defense hasn't been that problematic. I love Babe out there as well. His defense is viable, and he brings elite hitting to the table. And the center field option that is great is Cedric. He would be who I would be using right now in center field. Just the contact is great, the power is respectable, and the fielding is good in center. But there's a lot of options, you know? You could play an outfield with the better defense and speed with Vlad, Brian Reynolds, Jason Dominguez, and Clemente. You could go for the big boppers and get Jordan or Franmil or Castellanos out there. You could even put Bellinger out there. It comes down to what you like the most. And all of your S tier cards are either really good hitters that are viable to throw out there with enough defense, or if you're someone who likes the defense, they're good enough hitters with speed combined with good enough defense. So at the end of the day, find options that work the best for you. See which swings you like, see which combination of speed, defense, and all that you like most. And to find what works best, a lot of leeway out here. I will say, I think Mike Trout's time in the S tier is drawing to a close, as long as his contact versus righties is as poo-poo as it is. Now we move to our starting pitchers, and some of our all-star game cards, like Burns, Alcantara, I think I pronounced it right, are good, but I don't know how good they are. Like, I've heard people say they're pretty hittable. You know, Sandy is lower Ks per 9. They have their vulnerabilities. So the beauty of the all-star game content this year is that none of the cards are must-use like DeGrom, so you could use someone like Bobby Miller still, or same with Roy Halladay. These cards are all viable. Use the pitch mixes you like most. Honestly, guys like Verlander and Castillo and onward, I have them in the S tier only because they are definitely okay starters to use in your rotation. They're not going to be as good as the upper half of the S tier, in my opinion, but I think these cards get viability in Hall of Fame, and if you enjoy pitchers with their pitch mixes, they could definitely be usable. Your A tier guys are the guys that have maybe the pitch mix, or maybe slightly lacking in some of the attributes like hits per 9, or have some attributes but slightly lack in the pitch mix to the point where they're a little bit more difficult to pitch with. You could use someone in the A tier in your rotation, like the new Dontrelle Willis. Issue with Dontrelle Willis is he's slightly lackluster in the hits per 9, and his pitch mix is slightly difficult to pitch with because 3 of the pitches are nearly the same speed. However, he could definitely be a viable back end of the rotation piece for you, and could be a very fun card if you hit well with them. A pitcher that is really worth using in your rotation, actually, is the new LEITER that is a new World Series reward in ranked. Listen, he's got good hits per 9 with 102. He's got the sinker cutter. A lot of people comparing him to Tom Glavine. They're similar, but the difference between him and Glavine doesn't have a cutter. LEITER gets the cutter. But Glavine gets a changeup. So if you like a changeup, you probably want to keep Glavine. If you don't like changeups, then stick with LEITER. I like changeups personally, and I don't do great with LEITER cards because I like having that changeup. I like having slow changeups to throw away from hitters. However, you could kind of substitute that with LEITER with the slow curveball. So this should be a very viable starter option if you're looking for one. He's going to be a little expensive for the season though, so keep that in mind. However, a good starting pitcher card that I could actually see people using. So really the thing with starters is find pitch mixes you like. Find the different things you care about most. On the Hall of Fame, I'm emphasizing a lot of times really good break and control or really good velocity and break. So like Nolan Ryan is great velocity and all of that, doesn't have the control. So you gotta have something to get outs. And some of these guys in the A tier lack that thing to get outs. So these are my preferences in starters. However, you might have some starters in the A tier that for some reason you really like. And then finally, our relief pitchers, very, very stacked position at this point in the game. I start to think that Yohan Duran is starting to get outclassed on Hall of Fame. I don't think he has as much viability at this point. That's because he's kind of been faced for a while. However, he's a great beginner reliever. The A tier guys are definitely good if you enjoy them, have high parallels, maybe have used them for a while. Very okay relievers. But your S tier is really who I would be targeting in your pen. This new Chad Green, by the way, elite with sinker cutter. But again, this comes down to type of pitchers you like. I suck with Emmanuel Clase. Some people like Clase. Find what types of pitches, type of things you like in pitchers, and decide from there who you're using in your pen. You know, I think Mantiply and Soto get value because lefty relievers aren't too common, and I like their stuff. Brian Wilson I've had fun with, Raleigh's solid. So yeah, that is the tier list. We talked about all of the main diamonds in the game. Let me know in the comments if you agree with some of my takes. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Again, these are my opinions. Don't take them too seriously. Always use who you do best with. That's what matters the most. However, these videos are meant to give you good direction and other options for you to try, the attributes you should be looking for on cards when trying to make World Series. Let me know in the comments if you disagree, if there are those cards that you like higher than my ratings. I would love to hear your thoughts, but I appreciate you all watching this video. Make sure you like this video if you enjoyed, and more tier list content will be coming here soon. We do videos like this every week, so make sure you are subbed for more tier list content every Tuesday. We have a new Legend and Flashback collection coming this week, so tomorrow I'm going to make a video giving you some tips to prepare and what I'm looking like for the upcoming Legend and Flashback collection coming out on the 29th. So I appreciate you all watching. Have a great rest of your day. See you all again on the next one. Deuces.